Hello guys and welcome again to Legacy IAS Academy. So in this series of analyzing Mains 2024 paper, in this particular session we will be analyzing GS1 paper, and in GS1 specifically we will be looking at Indian society. Now, if you have a look at it with respect to the trend of the questions or the number of questions that have been asked in Indian society over the past 5 to 10 years, you will realize that there has been a general increase in the number of questions that have been asked. So, number one thing is that there has been increase in the number of questions. This one thing is absolutely clear. Now, the number of questions increased so much that last year it was close to 100 marks. And now again it's close to 100 marks. 90 marks exactly is what has been asked. So number of questions, the weightage of Indian society has increased. It's more than 1/3, right? At the same time, not just that, the type of questions or the difficulty level of the questions, if you will see, so you will realize that it is slightly on the more difficult side. So the questions are now not easy and medium, but rather medium and difficult. So easy questions in society, maybe 1 or 2 out of the number of questions that have been asked, and medium maybe 3, 4, and 1 or 2 are difficult as well. At the same time, what is required to answer these questions? Now, with respect to mains, it has always have the trend of being completely current affairs heavy, yes, of course, but at the same time we have always emphasized on the use or the necessity of the static knowledge. Static knowledge is what helps you to implement even the current affairs, and even in the prelims analysis or the prelims paper the same thing was said. And here also, if you look at the paper, of course you can use relevant examples, the current affairs examples. A couple of questions are asked because of the reason of being in news in the current affairs, but at the same time the static knowledge is of utmost importance. So if you see all the 9 questions, not a single, I think all the 7 questions, total 90 marks, but from 7 questions. So all the 7 questions that you will see will definitely require your static knowledge. There's no second thought about that. In fact, current affairs knowledge may not be required here, but static knowledge is definitely required. So this is not to say to avoid current affairs. No, current affairs is something that goes on throughout your preparation time, but static portion also holds relevance. So let's see what are these questions. Total 7 questions have been asked. Let me give you a bit of detail. Total 7 questions have been asked. 3 questions of 10 marks and 4 questions of 15 marks. So this 3 questions of 10 marks gives you 30 marks in total. 4 questions of 15 marks gives you total 60 marks. This total gives you 90 marks of the paper. That is more than 1/3 of the paper is from society. So initial questions are of art and culture, modern history, geography, and then the first society question starts from question number 8. Okay, so let's directly jump into it. What is the question? The question says distinguish between gender equality, gender equity, and women's empowerment. So this is again the first part. Distinguish between gender equality, gender equity, and women's empowerment. Now here also the same thing is happening as we would have seen in GS3 economy paper. It is very clear what is asked. But in society, of course, the question gets even more difficult because they are not just going to ask you the factual knowledge, but also ask you the linkages between the different concepts and the impact of one concept has on the other, so on and so forth. So not just knowledge, but the implementation of it is also very much important. So first part is distinguish between gender equality, equity, and women's empowerment. Second part is why is it important? What is important? To take gender concerns into account in programs design and implementation. So for example, gender budgeting. Why is gender budgeting is just one aspect. So why is taking gender concerns into consideration important for program design and implementation? 2 very clear-cut sections of this answer. So what to write, what not to write, like the flow and all should not be a difficulty, but the difficulty should be Are you clear with these concepts? Right? So let's see how to approach it. Now, when you talk about gender equality, we basically talk about the equality of outcome. Meaning, if in a corporation there are 100 employees, around 50 should be male, 50 should be females, right? Of course, or also one thing is the equality of outcome is being talked about, but at the same time equality of opportunity should also be there, right? So equality opportunity is very important. Outcome can be different, but at least opportunity should be same. But at the same time, if someone is already at a disadvantaged place, let's say if I am at a disadvantaged situation and someone else is at a higher advantageous situation, so can you just provide equal things to both of them and say that you are doing the right thing? No, I may require a certain push to bring me at the same level. So that is what you would talk about women's empowerment. So just by giving X units to males and X units to female is not going to help, because females are already at a disadvantageous position. That is why equality of outcome, if you're talking about, will not happen just by giving equality of opportunity, but there would be requirement of empowerment. So this is the difference. If I have to explain this difference more with respect to gender equality and gender equity, just take this into consideration, this diagram, which will help you understand. So this is a wall. Behind this there is a match going on, right? With respect to height, I am going to give you an understanding. So there is a match which is going on. So if I draw a diagram, this is a ground level. This is a ground level. Now, can you see this diagram? In the first diagram, what have we done? We have provided equal height to both of them, but one is taller, one is shorter. So by providing equal height to them, one of them is able to see very easily. In fact, the head is going way beyond the height of the wall. The other person is not able to see. So this is what equality is. So it will not necessarily work when two people are in different situation. Giving them equal would actually be an unequal or improper practice. Now here what is happening? This person's height is more, so you need not give this much height of an instrument to stand on. Even this much is enough. This person's height is less, so you need to give them a bit more push so that they both can watch the match. So this was equality. This is equity. Giving how much is required for both of them to be able to watch the match. Equality is just giving them equally. So equality is one thing, but we should move towards equity, because there are marginalized people, there are disadvantaged people. In this case, we are being specific with respect to gender. And then only women empowerment can happen in the true sense, so that when they are permanent, women's empowerment means they are able to take their own decisions on their own, which they were earlier not able to take. That is the classical meaning of empowerment. So this is how you can differentiate. You can draw a diagram as well. And then the next part of the question is, why is it important to take gender concerns into account in program design and implementation? See, because when you take gender concerns into account, your economy will anyhow grow. It will be an ethical thing to do. It will actually help in all the socio-economic factors. For example, when labor force participation of females are high, when they also earn, the expenditure on let's say socio-economic things is even higher. So that is also a case. At the same time, if you don't do that, what will happen? There will be double whammy. Double whammy. So what is double whammy? See, if any unforeseen untoward thing happens, the disadvantaged person who is there will face the double whammy. So if there is loss of jobs, so loss of jobs due to the slow economic growth, that will be an issue for males as well as females. but females are already disadvantageous. That is why it is going to hit them even more. That is what double whammy is, right? So this would be there. Hence, because of all this reason, it is very important to take gender consideration into account for program design and implementation. So that was your first question. Moving on to the next question. Intercaste marriages between castes which have socio-economic parity have increased. So intercaste marriages have increased, but generally in those castes which have socio-economic parity, they may be having differences with respect to the caste which should not be there, but it is considered in the society. So it is there, but if socio-economic parity is there, they may be different at different level in caste, but socio-economically if they are same, such kind of castes are coming together and there is an increase in their inter-caste marriage to some extent. But this is less true for inter-religious marriages. So in inter-religious marriages, if one religion is different and the other religion is different, and even though they may have same socio-economic status, still they are not marrying. Still their marriages are not increasing as much as this marriage is increasing. Discuss. Now, so for people who have sociology optional, these kind of questions would be very easy, because you may already know the theories, theory of power, theory of status, theory of this, that, and you need not necessarily mention the theory, but that will give you an idea. For example, in sociology, Weber says what? The total, who will dominate who, or what will be the status of someone in a society, is not just based on economy. As Marx says, it's just based on economy. Someone would say it is based on caste. Someone would say it is based on some other thing. But Weber says it's a mix of three things. Economy, so economy, power, and social status. So social status of Western society, we can link it with caste. So Weber is saying social status, power, and economy. So these three things are deciding at what level you are. So you may be at a lower level with respect to social status, but at a higher level with respect to economy and power. So what will happen? You may be all in all overall equivalent to the other person who had a higher social status but less power and almost similar economic situation. Right? So this is how you can come up with an answer. So what is happening? The difference is sort of lesser. Just imagine, let's say if we talk about someone in the class mobility structure is at a lower level, someone is at a higher level. But if they have good money power, that does give them education, money gives them social upward mobility. Right? If they would be poor with respect to money also, then it may not help them. But with respect to money, if they are doing well, as good as them, so the differences may not be that much. It would still be there. That is why the question itself says to some extent, to not a large extent, not a huge extent, not everyone, but to some extent. So those sum is happening because the power, the total standing in a society of a particular individual is due to of various reasons. One such reason is caste and the other being economic reason, as a result of which this is what is happening. Right? But now the second part is why this is less in inter-religious marriages. Now inter-religious marriages, because see, if the same religion is there, castes are different, the scriptures, the beliefs, the following and all, more or less majority of it remains the same. So it is easy to adapt. There is less, the objection would still be there, but lesser as compared to religious thing, inter-religious marriages. At the same time, the religion is completely different. The ideologies are completely different. There is idol worship, there is no idol worship, or there is this, there is not that. Right? So the acceptance would become difficult. Right? So that is why, because of more differences, the adaptability is difficult, the acceptance is difficult, all these things are difficult. Plus, there are certain rules also, for example, rules prohibiting forceful conversion. Now, it is not necessarily to say that forceful conversions would happen, but since the rules are there, it acts as a barrier. And there are issues that you can take. See, if there is an intercaste marriage and a family wants to stop that, they can only take extra legal course. Extra legal course, as in because intercaste marriages are allowed, even interreligious marriages are allowed under Special Marriages Act. But the family can charge saying that this is a forceful conversion, and there are provisions to prohibit such forceful conversion. So they can take it up. Of course, the bride and the groom can come and give witness that that is not the case. But then there are specific provisions to stop that. There is no specific provision to talk about, okay, if you are a particular caste, you cannot become of another caste. It's nothing like that. So sort of more barriers, less of adaptability, lesser amount of acceptance, because it is two polar opposite. Not necessarily polar opposite. See, commonly the beliefs and functionality of religion would remain the same, but still the way it is followed, the way it is preached, the things that are done are so different that it becomes quite more challenging. Right? And the keyword here is discuss. So you can probably talk about the way forward over here. Next question, question number 10th. In dealing with socio-economic issues of development, what kind of collaboration, this is important, what kind of collaboration between government, NGOs and private sector would be most productive, So it's a very clear hint with respect to questions that have been previously asked. See, what we always say, that need not generally be the case. But, we say privatize. If we privatize, what will happen? Private sector will have expertise. Does that mean government sector does not have expertise? No, that's not the case. Does that mean, it will be more profitable? Does that mean government sector cannot be profitable? No, that's not the case. We have Maharatnas, Mini Ratnas, Navratnas, companies doing so well. But generally we associate specialization, profitability, efficiency with the private sector. So you can mention those kind of points over here, right? With respect to the government, you can talk about, subsidizing certain things, facilitating certain things, coming up with schemes in which boost this kind of development, socio-economic development. If some private sector wants to have a project in the sector of socio-economic development, they would be given certain benefits, certain rebates, certain facilitation would be there. And when it comes to NGOs, what NGOs can do best is identification of beneficiaries, among other things as well. Of course, identification of beneficiaries, they will not be doing alone. In collaboration with the government, they can identify in a better way. Government would legalize the criteria for it. NGOs can work at the grassroots level to exactly go door to door and identify who is beneficiary properly and who is not. And of course, various other methods. Private sector's skills, expertise, etc. can be used for this. So this is how you are going to talk about all the three and talk about the synergy which can be most productive for socio-economic development. So it's a very straightforward question having a very straightforward answer. Now, the next question directly would be, we have seen question number 8, question 9 and question 10. So these 3 questions of 10 marks are done. Now 4 more questions of 15 marks are there, which starts from question number 17. Here you go. So question number 17, it says, what is regional disparity? That's first, very direct. You can directly introduce your answer by the definition of regional disparity. How, then second part, main body, you start by how does it differ from diversity? You can, after introduction, you can write another sentence, give example, and then talk about how does it differ from diversity. Disparity and diversity, see, even disparity, you can say there is a diversity in the socio-economic level, but that's a negative connotation. Disparity is a negative word. Diversity is a value-loaded word, but generally used in the positive sense, especially with respect to India, that we have huge amount of, let's say cultural diversity, religious diversity, caste-based diversity, regional diversity, of course, also. So diversity means we all are different, still united, even though different, because different culture, different region, this and that. Disparity means someone is having something the other does not, lack of provisions of certain basic needs, certain things. So disparity, inequality, right? So that is the difference. Now the third part is a more application based. How serious is the issue of regional disparity in India? It is, of course, very serious. You have to give examples and then talk about. So how you will give example? So since they are talking about regional disparity, first you can show disparity among states, union territories, then you, and giving reasons. Basically, you don't have to give reasons, don't focus much on reason, but how serious is the issue, you have to give examples. So examples you can give based on disparities among the states. So let me write here, disparities among the states, union territories, disparities within the state union territories, within the states, right? And give examples for it, and then just before concluding, talk about one solution and conclude your answer. Next question, question number 18. Despite comprehensive policies for equity and social justice, underprivileged sections are not yet getting the full benefits of affirmative actions envisaged by the Constitution comment. Now, why that will happen? See, one very important sociological aspect of it is that the person who is underprivileged does not even know that they are underprivileged, does not even know that there are these benefits for them. There is complete lack of awareness, lack of understanding, lack of exercising the rights they have. Now, this is the first stage of the basic zero. There's nothing. Second is, even if you are aware, they do not have the wherewithal to fight for, not fight will come later, ask for their rights, request for their rights, how to do, where to do, what not to do, etc., etc. Third thing is, if they are aware about that also, then comes the implementation, that is not implemented. You have the right, but you are not given the right, then you have to fight for the right. So even if you are aware, even if you have applied for it, still you are not getting, then do you have the wherewithal to fight for it, wait for it? You are underprivileged, you have an issue of daily hand to mouth survival, you are having issue to feed your own self, will you be fighting these battles? So this is the sequence of events because of which the underprivileged may have a lot of policies for them, but they themselves are unaware, first of all, that they are underprivileged, unaware that there are certain things, after unaware, not able to apply for it. Even if they do, they are not able to get, so they are not having wherewithal to fight for it. Because of this, it is possible that whatever has been envisaged in the Constitution, they may not get it. That is point number one. Point number two, what is they saying? Not yet getting the full benefits of affirmative actions envisaged by Constitution. Focus on the word envisaged. They are not talking about government schemes already implemented, why they are not getting the benefit. They are saying it is envisaged by the Constitution and they are not getting. So certain things can be envisaged, but on ground there may be no rules, no laws, nothing to implement that properly. So again, whether that gets converted into real practical implementation or not is also an issue. Certain things could be, of course, a state subject. So even if there is a common law, the state may apply it differently, again leading to disparity, right? So because of these reasons, you may realize that all this equity and social justice's comprehensive policies are there, but underprivileged people are still not benefiting from it. And so 15-mark question, so you have to talk about certain solutions which may give you certain challenges, so how to overcome those challenges, and then conclude your answer. I hope that is absolutely clear. Moving on to the next question. Globalization has increased urban migration by skilled, young, unmarried women. Skilled, young, unmarried women from various classes, rich, poor, etc. How has this trend impact? This is a statement that they have made, but remember these 3 pointers. How has this trend impacted upon their personal freedom and relationship with family? Now please understand, generally what happens the moment we hear the word impact, we start thinking negative impact. No, there can be positive impact as well. So whenever you hear the word impact, and if I ask you, what is the impact of X on Y? You have to write both sides of the impact, both kinds of the impact. I have simply asked you the impact. I have not said positive, negative. Alright, so impact. So how is this trend impacted upon their personal freedom and relationship with family? So let me explain this with an anecdote. Not an anecdote exactly, but a concept. See, what happens is, let me give you an example. There is a married, people get married. So let's say there's a woman who, now here they are talking about unmarried, so I'll extrapolate it on the family. So what happens? Two people are married. Now they are having some issues, and the issues are so much that they don't want to live together. Now, one of them has a job, the other is jobless. They both are living together, it's not a joint family, living together. One is having job, other is jobless. For whom is it easy to leave the other and go? For the one who has a job, it's easy for them to leave the other and go. The one who is jobless, is not earning, is actually dependent for food, clothing and shelter also, so it becomes very difficult. Now in the same manner, let's say you are living in a family. Now you are not having much rights, much say, much this, much that on your own choices, on your own life, but you start earning. You are earning, you are economically stable. You have financial independence. Financial independence as in you are independent financially. Okay. Now, if certain issues happen, you can be in a joint family, you can be in a nuclear family, whatever, and you are not liking it, there are some domestic violence and all that can happen. Now, won't it give you more freedom? Won't that job give you more freedom? Yes, it would give you more freedom. How will it give you more freedom? It is going to give you more freedom because now you can stay outside on your own. If you wouldn't have had that, you would have to stay with the family no matter what, right? Or else it will be very difficult. So this is with respect to job. Now they are asking about globalization has increased urban migration by skilled young unmarried women. So majorly when people are migrating, and they have specifically mentioned unmarried women. Why? Because a huge percentage of migration, a huge reason for migration of women is marriage. So they want to take that marriage reason out. That is why I mentioned unmarried, skilled and young women. So why will a skilled young unmarried woman migrate for jobs? So when these women are migrating for jobs, they are securing jobs, they are financially independent, so their personal freedom is of course going to go up. The dynamics with respect to the family is going to change. They would now have more say on the doings of the family, more say on their own life. So freedom is going to increase, the family dynamics is going to change. So you have to talk about all of that. Okay. Hope that's clear. Now let's move on to the next question. The last one, again a 15 marker. Critically analyze the proposition that there is a high correlation between what? India's cultural diversities and socio-economic marginalities. India's cultural diversities and socio-economic marginalities. This is something wherein you have to develop a link. Cultural diversities as in we have various cultures with respect to not just food, clothing, shelter, habit, rituals and worship and all, also with respect to the economic aspects. Again, sociology optional people would be easily able to understand what's going on here when they remember the theory of Max Weber, who talks about Protestant ethics and the spirit of capitalism. How that particular culture of Protestant ethics have led them to do so well with respect to capitalism, right? So that's a cultural diversity, different types of Christians. But even in Christianity, different types of Catholics, even in that different sects are there, and one sect is doing well, the other not. Why? Reason in the cultural differences, what tenets they are following. So on the similar lines, they can build upon this. You need not necessarily give Max Weber's theory of Protestant ethic and spirit of capitalism, but that is going to help you answer this question. So cultural diversities is there, which has socio-economic aspects also which are different, because some particular communities, they would be doing business only, generation after generation. Some others won't. But then what happens, that generation after generation you are doing business, you are lacking education, but economically you can still be better. So all those differences leading to not just different food, clothing, shelter, but also different occupations. And certain occupations may not be that much remunerative, as a result of which there can be a lot of socio-economic marginalities. So not just based on the cultural aspect of it, but also the socio-economic aspect of the cultural diversities would lead to marginalities. So you need to critically analyze. Since the question statement is critically analyzed, first we have agreed with it. Second, we will also disagree that that need not necessarily be the case, wherein we will talk about how different cultural aspects is also leading to the same thing, which is not a marginality, rather let's say a growth, an economic growth, a socio-economic growth. So we will give that example. We have shown both the sides. We talk about how there can be a synergy between them and conclude our answer. I hope that's absolutely clear. So this Indian society paper, 2 or 3 questions were a bit tricky. You should know how to link it. For example, this, how to link it, and a couple of other questions. Apart from that, the remaining questions were straightforward, could easily be done. And one important point is exactly 90 marks have come from Indian society, which is, previously also it was 100 marks or so, now also 90. So a huge weightage of Indian society is maintained in GS1 paper. All right. So that's about it. Stay tuned to Legacy IAS Academy YouTube channel. You will be getting more analysis of the mains paper. Thank you.